Welcome back to So Many Secrets. Last time we met Elyana where she got into trouble in the community pool and was ordered to see a psychiatrist. Today, in Chapter 2, Teresa will read to you what she discovers, again that is even more critical. Here's Teresa.
Chapter 2. In the morning, I made an effort to swallow some yogurt and look cheerful. Concern was written in Mom's eyes, and when Dad hugged me, his body trembled. However, we managed to get through breakfast without mentioning my impending visit to the shrink. On the walk to the Omni building, I tried to close off any compartments within myself that the doc shouldn't see. I needed to be calm and detached. While I was trying to be mentally cool, my body heated up. Stress? Probably. It made me wonder how hot it was outside and whether I could survive out there if the shrink discovered my secret. The Omni building was just ahead. My heart picked up the pace. Could I have a heart attack at my age? I stopped to do some deep breathing exercises until my heart slowed. Heart attack avoided, but I didn't know if I felt relieved or disappointed. I took another deep breath and went inside. No building guard, no welcoming committee. I scanned the board for Dr. Cummings' office number and then trudged up the stairs and stood outside his door before working up the courage to go in. A petite woman with wispy white hair greeted me and ushered me into the inner sanctum. I hated gloomy places, and Dr. Cummings' office clearly qualified. My shades didn't help, but I was determined to keep them on. I stood there uncertainly because the chair meant for me was a recliner. Dr. Cummings stood to greet me. When I didn't move toward the chair, he said, "Don't worry, Elyana. No sleeping allowed on your first visit. Please be seated." He smiled like he thought his perceptiveness had already won me over. Not a chance. I reluctantly sat and found the chair was super comfy, like one he'd need to hypnotize someone and pick their brain. I relaxed a little when I remembered he'd said no sleeping today, and I translated that into no hypnotizing. The doc's thin body was clad in casual black pants and shirt, and a mop of black hair, which he clearly couldn't control, framed his gray eyes. Someone might call him handsome, but I reminded myself he had the power to send me outside. He settled into his swivel chair, and his lips split in a fake, encouraging smile. "Now then," he said in a silky voice, "I see you have me at a disadvantage. I can't see your eyes, but you can see mine. Please remove your glasses." Whoa! He couldn't have scared me more if he'd told me to undress. I felt naked without my shades. If I refused, would that be enough to send me outside? I didn't think so, but complied and kept my head down. His desk light flickered. I took a deep breath and fought for control. "Well, that's a start," he said. He settled into a new position and his chair creaked. I was curious, but not enough to look up. I waited forever for him to say something. I wouldn't raise my head and let him see my freakish eyes. He sighed and said, "Before I see a client, I learn as much about them as I can. That gives me a place to begin asking questions." Pause. "So I can help the person discover what they need to know to overcome whatever is troubling them. However," he leaned toward me, "I didn't find anything in the public record about you. No birth certificate, no record of your mother being in the hospital and giving birth, no school attendance." He said it like it was a question, but what did he mean, no record? I wanted to yell at him to look again. If he'd studied at Harvard, he didn't flunk Research 101. What was his game? The school part I could explain, but the rest was like a news flash that sent shockwaves surging through my body. Energy began to leak out of me and made the light on his desk flicker like a strobe light on a dance floor. I didn't want him to connect the flickering light to me, so I shoved on my shades and headed for the door. "Sit down, young lady," he commanded. Strangely enough, his demand calmed me, and the light stopped dancing. I sat and tried to regulate my breathing. What kind of shrink was he to make up lies? But what if he wasn't lying? I'd never seen my birth certificate. I didn't look like either of my parents. Where did my looks and strange powers come from? The shrink was watching me like I was some bug to be examined. I took a deep breath and forced a smile. "So, what's next?" "That's up to you, Elyana. Something happened to you at the pool yesterday. The lifeguard at the center thought you'd had a seizure and were drowning. But the way you acted after he rescued you made him think something else was going on. Any ideas?" That sounded remarkably like what Dad had said last night. I started to smile before I remembered this was the shrink asking, and he held major power over my life. I shrugged and mumbled, "No clue." There was another uncomfortable long silence before he said, "Okay, Elyana, that's enough for today. I'll see you again tomorrow, same time. Until then, I want you to write down anything that comes to mind when you think about the attack. Don't worry about spelling or sentence structure. Jot down whatever words come to mind. Don't analyze. And don't edit what you write, no matter how strange or unrelated your thoughts seem to be. Jot them down and bring them with you." Hallelujah! I was dismissed. I jumped up and headed for the door. "No editing," he called after me. "We want to figure this out if you want to stay in the dome." Whoa! There was the threat I'd feared. The light in the room flickered in syncopation with my racing heart. I hurried past the receptionist, dashed down the stairs, and out into a still, quiet street. He said if I wanted to stay in the dome. That implied we had to figure out what happened and why, or I would be sent outside with the undesirables and crazies. That's the threat that kept everyone in the dome on their good behavior. I had to find a way to give him what he wanted without letting him know how freaky I was. But what could I say that would satisfy him? For sure I couldn't tell the truth. I ran full out for home. It felt good to move, not think, just move. I ate up a couple blocks before my brain flashed on. No birth certificate, and no record of Mom giving birth. That stopped me. Once, I'd asked Mom if I was adopted, and she assured me it was impossible because they didn't allow adoption in the dome. True, because I checked it out. But I didn't look like Mom and Dad. I looked like the woman in my vision. Who was she? Where was she? I made it to my apartment building without barfing and trudged up to the 4th floor. Once inside, I wandered aimlessly around, touching objects I'd grown up with that now felt foreign to me. I was out of sync, and nothing would be right again until I knew the truth. That couldn't happen until my maybe parents came home from work. Until dinner time, I hid out in my room reading Roger Zelazny's fantasy novel series, 9 Princes in Amber. At dinner, I sat at the table and immediately felt the tension in the room. "So, how did it go today?" Mom asked. That was my cue, but all I could manage was, "Okay." I shoveled food into my mouth, unaware of what I was eating, because I was thinking about the question I was afraid to ask. Dad gave me his "see how patient I am" look and asked, "Care to be more specific?" I swallowed and decided to go for it. "He claims I don't have a birth certificate." Dad looked at Mom, who stopped mid-bite and banged her fork on her plate. "Why does he care about that? I thought he was helping you gain control. Was he trying to see how you'd react?" Not the response I expected. So I told them about my assignment and pretended it was a big joke. They sent me a 2-parent look like I was a stand-up comic and I'd just bombed. The salad I'd swallowed earlier now threatened to revisit. I drank some water, took my plate to the kitchen, and made it halfway to my room before Mom said, "Wait, We need to talk. I followed her to the kitchen, hoping she was going to come clean about the birth certificate. That could be good or bad. I leaned against the door jamb, and my heart bonged in my ears. I don't understand what's happening to you. Neither do I, but it scares me. Me too. You're smarter than Dr. Cummings. I know, but he won't understand your special abilities, so keep control while you're there. Okay. I turned away before Mom could see the disappointment in my face. She'd ignored the no birth certificate and instead focused on my attitude about the assignment. They're hiding something. I saw the looks they gave each other, and Mom immediately changed the subject. Whatever they're hiding, she apparently thinks everything will be okay if I just get control. I retreated to my room and sank into my desk chair. I wished the shrink could help me get control of my wild energy. Maybe he had some technique that could help. If not, I was in major trouble. I rescued my poetry journal from the pile of debris heaped on my desk and scribbled stars, singing, and buggy eyes. Good luck with this, Doc.
Thank you, Teresa. Please join us next time when Elyana makes a life-changing discovery.